Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Izunna Anyikwa. My presentation is on the Eastern Cape Digital Economy Diagnostic Report. Okay. The outline of my presentation will be as follows. I will start with the introduction, look at the aims and objectives of the study, the key research questions, the drivers of digital economy, digital penetration, the impact of digital technology in the Eastern Cape, looking at emerging views, and finally the recommendations. By the way of introduction, over the past few years, there have been a rapid change in the global economy due to the growing adoption of digital technology. Digital economy is a term that we normally use to describe how digital technology is transforming the production processes. Globally, digital economy is estimated to worth about 11.5 trillion US dollars in 2016 and is expected to increase to about 23 trillion dollars by 2025, which is about 24.3% of the global GDP, according to Huawei and the Oxford Economics 2016. This provides opportunity for Eastern Cape and the South Africa at large to take advantage of the digital economy. As much as digital technology provides opportunity, there are also challenges relating to employment and the labor market disruption. Some recent studies have highlighted some of these challenges. For instance, World Economic Forum in 2016 estimated a net job loss of 1.5 million associated with digital adoption between 2015 and to 2020. Also, McKinsey estimated that about 49% of jobs are prone to be automated within the next few years. Even in South Africa, Leroux in 2018 estimated that about 4.5 million jobs are likely to be automated in future. This means that as we are preparing for fourth industrial revolution, there is need for policymakers to understand the opportunities and the challenges. With this brief introduction, the main aim of this study is to shed light on the impact of digital transformation in the Eastern Cape, as well as to support a number of policies such as the Eastern Cape Digital Skill Plan, the Eastern Cape Provincial Development Plan, the National Development Plan, and the SDG goals. Other specific objectives considered in this study is to analyze the key drivers of digital economy, examine the level of digital penetration in the province, investigate the impact of digital technology on economic growth, impact of digital technology on employment and skills, and provide policy recommendations based on the findings. The following key research questions has been highlighted, but because of time, I will not go through them one after the other, but you are allowed to go through them. Now, let's start by considering the drivers of digital economy. Studies have highlighted a number of digital technologies such as mobile internet, cloud computing, data analytics, Internet of Things, blockchain, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics as the key drivers of the digital economy. Based on a survey by World Economic Forum in 2016, the study provided the ranking of these technologies as presented in figure 1. And in this figure, you could see that mobile internet technology and the cloud ranked number 1. And the reason provided is that because most of these technology rely on mobile internet for their connectivity. Having considered the drivers of digital technology, the next is to look at the level of digital penetration in the Eastern Cape. But we start by looking at the level of digital penetration in South Africa, as presented in figure 2. If you look at this figure, you see that the proportion of mobile cellular subscription per 100 population has increased from 70.9% in 2005 to 165.6% in 2019. The same pattern is observed when we look at the number of active mobile phone broadband subscription, which increased from 17% to 102%. The internet usage has increased from 7.5% to 56.2%. Another trend here is the fixed telephone subscription. The number of fixed telephone subscription has declined over the period. And also, if you look at the number of fixed broadband subscription per thousands of population is still relatively low, because this is something of recent trend. Now, when you consider the digital penetration at household level by looking at the household access to fixed or mobile telephone by province in 2019, you could see the dominance of mobile telephone over fixed telephone line. In Eastern Cape, 86% of households in the province has access to mobile telephone in 2019. This compares to 69.8% in 2010 or 87.1% in 2015. In terms of access to the internet at home or elsewhere, majority of households in the Eastern Cape have access to the internet outside their home. Only few have access to the internet at home, which represent about 3.2%. In terms of network coverage, there is more network coverage in the urban area compared to rural areas. Also, 4G/LTE coverage is low compared to 2G or 3G network. Looking at the type of investment in the Eastern Cape, ICT account for just 6.8% of total investment in the Eastern Cape, when compared to 43.3% of total investment in machinery and the transport equipment. The research and development account for just 4.2%. This shows that ICT and the research and development investment is actually very low. Having looked at the level of digital penetration in the Eastern Cape, the next thing we did was to estimate the impact of technology on productivity, growth, employment, and different scales. In this estimate, we use different processes for technology, ICT, machinery and equipment, as well as research and development technology. Now, the estimate was done both in the short term and for the long term, and the results of our estimate shows that ICT does not have effect on productivity both in the short term and in the long term, but machinery and the equipment as well as research and development technology have impact on the productivity both in the short term and in the long term. In the short term, you see that the impact of machinery and the equipment and the R&D, they contribute approximately 0.1% to the growth of productivity, while in the long term they contribute 0.2% to the growth of productivity. In table 2, we estimate the impact of technology on economic growth, both in the short term and in the long term. And you can see that from the estimate that machine and equipment as well as research and development technology have impact on economic growth in the short run, and they contribute approximately 0.01% to GDP growth, while in the long term it's only machine and equipment technology that actually contributes to economic growth, while ICT have no impact on economic growth both in the short term and in the long term. The estimated impact of technology on employment shows that ICT and the R&D technology contribute approximately 0.1% to employment growth. However, machinery and the other equipment, transport equipment, reduces employment by approximately 0.1% in the short term. In the long term, similar finding was identified. ICT and the R&D technology contributes to employment growth, while machinery and the transport equipment reduces employment by approximately 0.2%. Furthermore, we estimated the impact of technology on different skill levels by looking at skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, and the low-skilled labor. And the estimated impact shows that ICT actually reduces employment of skilled workers both in the short term and in the long term. However, it actually increases the employment of semi-skilled labor and the low-skilled labor both in the short term and in the long term. Looking at the estimated impact of machines and the transport equipment as well as R&D technology, you can see that they actually contribute positively to the employment of skilled workers both in the short term and in the long term. And the estimated impact ranges from approximately 0.2 to 0.1%. Based on the findings of this study, the emerging views are that digital technology are the forces behind the digital economy, and these technologies will be the major drivers of the fourth industrial revolution. Also, these technologies are disruptive in terms of the type of job opportunity and the skill required. Hence, some view it as skill bias. However, based on our analysis, we did not identify any skill bias, and the human capital will be key in the presence of such skill bias. Flowing from the findings of these studies, a number of recommendations will be key in taking the advantage provided by these technologies and as well as mitigating the challenges as we move into the fourth industrial revolution. The first of these will be infrastructure. There is need for the province to invest more in ICT and the research and development. As we have seen in our analysis, the level of investment in ICT and the research and development technology has been very low. Hence, there is need for collaboration between both government and the private sector in achieving this goal. The second aspect is digital industry strategy. There is a need for the province to develop an industry-wide and the sector-specific strategy that maps out the current and the anticipated digital infrastructure and the workforce need of each sector. This is important in order to identify what is required and what is missing, what is required and what is not currently available in the province. Hence, as we move into the fourth industrial revolution, by identifying all these key gaps and the areas to be actioned upon, this will help us to improve the contribution of technology in the province. The third part is to look at the digital entrepreneurship. This area requires training for digital entrepreneur, whereby individuals or students are trained to be digital entrepreneur, and that can also provide job opportunity for a number of people or graduates who are leaving the university. And then that takes into the building on the skills, which is the fourth recommendation. In this case, it means that our educational programs has to be aligned with the need of the industry. And in aligning with the need of industries means that there is a collaboration between the higher education, the private sector, and the government to collaborate in identifying the gaps in terms of the need for the digital need of each sector and the type of skills that the workers will need in order to perform in such industry. Finally, we look at business workforce strategy. In terms of business workforce strategy, there is need for businesses to recognize the issue of reskilling and the retraining of workers, and such will be key for them to take advantage of the opportunity provided by the digital economy. Also, within this business workforce strategy, there is need for exposure to different roles by workers, whereby workers are given exposure to different aspects of the job to understand how those can be performed. Hence, this is will be key in helping the workers to understand how to maximize their skill.